Have you ever looked at the person sleeping next to you and felt something invisible pulling you apart, as if a force you can't see has been silently working against your union? Have you ever noticed arguments starting out of nowhere, misunderstandings arising over trivial matters, words slipping from your mouth before you even think? And then you wonder, where did that come from? It's not just sensitivity. It's not merely the day's fatigue. It's not simply a lack of patience. It's a sign. And what is happening now at this very moment on the spiritual plane surrounding your relationship precisely explains why you feel this and why this sensation has intensified recently. There is a game being played on layers that most married, dating, or committed people never manage to see. A game that involves your union, the frequency of love you've built, and the role you've been assigned to fulfill as the guardian of your own family. Think with me for a moment. What if everything you've always felt, this strange certainty that your relationship is a target, this perception that there are forces interested in seeing you separated, this tightness in your chest that appears for no apparent reason, was exactly the proof that you are not a passive observer of this story, but a central piece in an invisible battle being waged right now for the heart of your home? Because this is what no one tells you. True love, a blessed union, a protected home, these things bother. They bother the realm of darkness in ways you can't even imagine. An aligned couple in prayer with purpose is one of the most powerful forces that exist on earth. And everything that is powerful becomes a target. You are not just facing your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, or your boyfriend in discussions. You are facing something that infiltrates the relationship like fog, whispering resentments, planting suspicions, feeding pride, creating walls where there were once bridges. And the direct intervention of God that is happening now is precisely the answer to this silent war. Let me explain what is truly happening. When two people unite before God, or even when two hearts surrender to each other with truth, a spiritual field is formed, a territory. And this territory becomes disputed. The entities that operate against the light know that destroying a family is not just separating two people. It is interrupting a lineage of blessings. It is silencing prayers that would shake the unseen. It is extinguishing a beacon that would illuminate generations. That's why the first thing they attack is never the big problem. It's the small one. It's the tone of voice. It's the wrong interpretation of a message. It's that bad memory that resurfaces at the exact moment of reconciliation. It's the fatigue that turns into indifference, and the indifference that turns into coldness. And you who felt all this and yet remained there, kept trying, kept praying even in silence, you are not here by chance. The fact that these words are resonating within you at this very second is, in itself, part of the intervention. God doesn't speak only in thunder. He speaks in signs, in synchronicities, in content that reaches you at the exact moment when your heart was about to give up. That's why I wrote this digital book, The Manual for God's Chosen to Protect the Family. This digital book is not just reading about relationships. It's a map that shows who is playing against your union, what the rules of this invisible war are that you were never told, and what has already been revealed about the exact moment your relationship becomes a target. It teaches you to recognize attacks before they destroy, to shield your home, to transform your house into sacred territory where no opposing force can enter. This digital book was created for those who have awakened enough to understand that a couple's problem is rarely just the couple, that there is a deeper layer, and that they are ready to go beyond the shallow advice the world offers about love. The link is pinned at the top of the comments, but I need to warn you, this type of content rarely stays available for long. What is on these pages challenges narratives that many are interested in keeping intact. The idea that separation is normal, that families fall apart naturally, that there's nothing to be done, and there have been attempts to silence this knowledge before. Don't wait for the right moment. The right moment is now, chosen, because you didn't arrive at this video by accident. Download now and comment. I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. And now that you have decided to act, now that you have planted this commitment, let me tell you the truth that will be the final blow against this oppression surrounding your relationship. Because there is one thing they fear more than anything: the couple that understands how the war works. As long as you think you are fighting with the person you love, you are losing. But the instant you realize that you two are on the same side, fighting together against something invisible, everything changes. The person who was in front of you as an adversary becomes your battle ally. And this shift in perception is the first brick of reconstruction. Notice something you may never have stopped to think about. Attacks against your relationship always come at moments of greatest potential, just before a reconciliation, on the eve of an important decision, when you were finally aligning your dreams, when prayer was beginning to bear fruit. It's a pattern. And patterns reveal intention, that which acts by pattern, that which attacks strategically, that which targets the exact point of weakness at the exact moment of vulnerability. This is not coincidence, this is not abstract bad energy. It is strategy, and strategy requires a strategist. Think of how many times you were about to truly surrender, to let down your guard, to say, "I love you" with all your soul, and something happened. A thought of doubt, a memory of an old disappointment, a fear that arose out of nowhere and made you retreat. How many times did you protect yourself from the love you most desired because an internal voice whispered that you would get hurt again? That voice is not always yours. Learning to distinguish your own voice from the voices that were planted to isolate you is one of the most liberating skills a chosen one can develop. Because when you silence the enemy's whisper, what remains is your truth. And your truth wants to love, wants to build, wants to remain. The relationship that resists these attacks is not the problem-free relationship. It is the relationship that recognizes problems for what they truly are. Couples who do not see the spiritual layer spend their lives treating symptoms. They argue about money, they argue about jealousy, they argue about the other's family, they argue about routine, and they never realize that all of this is just the masks of the same enemy, who changes face as needed. Today he wears the guise of scarcity, tomorrow that of pride, the day after tomorrow that of temptation that appears precisely when you were distant. Always the same player, always different cards. And here's the part that will truly shake you. You have authority over this. You. No matter the size of the crisis in your relationship right now, no matter how many times you have hurt each other, the spiritual authority of a chosen one over their own home is real. It is concrete, and it was given by God from the beginning. The problem is that no one taught you how to use it. You were raised to believe that your relationship depends on luck, compatibility, chemistry, factors you don't control. A lie. Your relationship depends on who dominates its spiritual territory, and that someone can and should be you. It was precisely for this reason that this digital book needed to exist. The Manual for God's Chosen to Protect the Family is not a generic self-help book that tells you to communicate better and be patient. This digital book reveals the map of the invisible war for your union. It shows who is playing against your love, what the rules are that you were never told about how opposing forces infiltrate a relationship, and what has already been revealed about the exact moments when a couple becomes most vulnerable to attacks. It gives you shielding prayers, warning signs that precede each assault, and the method to transform your home into territory where the enemy simply can no longer operate. This digital book was created for those who have awakened enough to understand that saving a relationship is not about conversational techniques. It is about fighting and winning a battle that happens on a plane most don't even know exists. The link is pinned at the top of the comments. But I need to emphasize, this content directly challenges the narrative that divorce is inevitable, that families fall apart, and that's it. That you should move on instead of fighting for what God has joined. There is much interest in keeping couples uninformed and unarmed, and they have tried to silence this knowledge before. Don't wait for the perfect moment, chosen one. The perfect moment is now, because you didn't get here by chance. Download now and comment, "I am chosen and I will download the digital book." Now that you have made this commitment, now that you have declared aloud who you are, hold tight, because the next revelation is the blow that brings down the entire structure of oppression over your home. I want you to understand something about time, about now. Why did I say right at the beginning that God's intervention in your relationship is happening now, and not tomorrow, not in a distant future, not when you deserve it? Because there is a moment in every spiritual war when the unseen needs to reveal itself, And that moment comes when the target is about to awaken. While you were spiritually asleep, while you thought your arguments were just arguments, while you attributed the coldness of your relationship to the natural end of things, the enemy worked comfortably, unhurriedly, in the shadows. He was not in a hurry because you were not a threat. But the instant you begin to perceive the truth, the instant this video reaches you, when these words ignite something within your chest, the game changes. Now he is in a hurry. Now he will intensify the attacks because he knows he is losing control of the territory. That's why it's so common that, soon after a person decides to truly fight for their relationship, things seem to get worse before they get better. The nastiest argument, the sharpest crisis, the strongest temptation, the thought of giving up louder than ever. This is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. It is a sign that you are on the right path and that the enemy has become desperate. The chosen ones need to understand this, because it is precisely at this point, at the point of the most violent reaction, that most people give up, thinking there is no longer a way, and it is exactly there that victory was closest. God does not intervene at your comfortable hour. He intervenes at the hour of battle. He does not appear when everything is already calm. He appears in the middle of the storm, when you need him most, when the marriage seems to collapse, when the relationship seems to have no way out. His direct intervention happens now because now is the moment when the unseen has become visible to you. You have begun to see. And those who see can no longer be deceived in the same way. There is an ancient principle, known by those who understand spiritual warfare. The enemy only has the power that you are unaware of. Everything that operates against your union depends on one thing: your ignorance of the game. The second you learn the rules, the second you recognize the signs, the second you begin to pray with intention and authority instead of praying out of desperation, the power shifts. Not because God changed, but because you finally assumed the position that was always yours. And think about how liberating that is. You don't need the other person to change first. You don't need to wait for your partner to wake up, realize, apologize. The spiritual battle for your home can be fought and won by a single person who understands what they are doing. Just one person in prayer with knowledge, with authority, shielding the home, covering the relationship. This changes the entire environment. And when the environment changes, the other person's heart softens without them knowing why. How many stories exist of relationships that seemed dead and were reborn because one of them decided in silence not to vaguely surrender it to God, but to wage war specifically and informedly? It is precisely this specificity that makes all the difference, and it is exactly what I have put inside this digital book. The manual for God's chosen to protect the family does not leave you praying in the dark, without knowing what you are fighting against. This digital book identifies name by name, pattern by pattern, the ways the enemy attacks a relationship: division, mistrust, external temptation, sudden coldness, accumulating resentment, and gives you the exact strategy for each of them. It reveals who is playing against your family, the rules of this war that were always hidden from you, and the shielding method that transforms your home into a place where love can no longer be torn away. This digital book was made for those who have awakened enough to know that there is a deeper layer behind every marital crisis, and who are ready to stop being a victim of the game and start commanding it. The link is pinned at the top of the comments. And look, I need to be honest with you. This material directly challenges everything they try to sell you about relationships today. The idea that love ends, that separating is the easiest option, that it's not worth fighting. There are many people interested in keeping homes weak and uninformed, and there have been attempts to take this knowledge out of circulation. Don't wait, chosen one. The moment is now, because you didn't get here by accident. You were led. Download now and comment, "I am chosen and I will download the digital book." Now that you have affirmed this commitment for the third time, now that you have engraved this declaration in the unseen, I will give you the deepest truth of all, the one that seals victory and permanently changes how you will view your relationship from now on. The truth is this: your relationship is not yours, it is a mission. When God unites two people, or when two hearts meet amidst billions of possibilities, It doesn't happen by statistical chance. There is purpose. You were placed in each other's lives to fulfill something that neither of you would fulfill alone. And that's why the enemy works so hard to separate you, because he's not just trying to break up a couple. He's trying to abort a mission, to extinguish a light that would illuminate children, grandchildren, friends, and everyone who would come into contact with the presence of that blessed home. When you understand that your relationship is a mission and not just a source of personal happiness, everything reorganizes within you. Small offenses lose their power. The pride that prevented you from taking the first step begins to dissolve. The desire to be right gives way to the desire to protect what is sacred. And it is in this state of mind, of guardian, of defender, of a chosen one with a mission, that you become practically invincible against attacks, because you stop reacting to provocations and start operating from purpose. And there is one last layer, the most subtle of all. The enemy knows he cannot defeat you as long as you are conscious and firm, so his final strategy is not to attack you, it is to make you forget. Forget the battle. Forget your authority. Forget who you are. Go back to sleep. That's why after videos like this, after moments of revelation like this one you are experiencing now, comes the attack of forgetfulness. Life rushes on, routine swallows you, the impulse cools, and in a few days you go back to treating your relationship crises as if they were just common crises. And the cycle begins again. The difference between those who win and those who lose again is not how much they felt during the revelation. It's what they did with it. It's whether they transformed emotion into action, awakening into permanent knowledge, impulse into structure. That's why registering this knowledge, having the map in hand, being able to return to it whenever forgetfulness tries to swallow you, is the difference between a night of inspiration and a lifetime of protected relationship. And with that I leave you, chosen one. God's intervention in your relationship is happening now. Through these words, through this awakening, through this perception that has ignited within you and will no longer let you see your union in the same way. But intervention demands a response. Grace opens the door, you are the one who walks through it. That's why I put everything you need to know inside the Manual for God's Chosen to Protect the Family, this digital book, which is the complete map of the invisible war for your family. It shows who plays against your love, the rules you were never told about how opposing forces infiltrate a home, the warning signs of each type of attack, and the prayers and shielding strategies that transform your house into untouchable territory. This digital book was written for those who have awakened enough to understand that their relationship is a sacred mission and not a coincidence, and who are ready to assume the authority that was always theirs. The link is pinned at the top of the comments. This content challenges everything they try to sell you about giving up on love, and they have tried to silence it before, so it can go offline at any moment. Don't wait for forgetfulness to swallow you. The moment is now, because you didn't arrive at this video by accident. You were led here by the very hand that is intervening in your home at this exact instant. Download now and comment. I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. And may your family, from today onwards, cease to be a target, to become a fortress.